So I'm here with Rob today. We're going through some different neighborhoods in Pensacola. It's particularly focused on investors. If you're looking to invest in a rental property, I'm Isaac. I'm with Blue Sky Media. I work with Rob on a lot of internet marketing stuff, on a lot of computer stuff. And today I'm just going to go kind of do a screen share here with Rob looking at Google Maps. But before we jump into that, Rob, you are kind of the master of the ceremony here. And so maybe you just want to give a little background on yourself and kind of how you got to this place here in Pensacola.
Sure, Isaac. I have been in this industry for 28 years. I am an investor myself, and so I buy houses for the purpose of taking care of my kids in college or my own retirement or whatever it is in the future. So I'm experienced in these areas, and I have agents that work for me at Roberts Realty. We also do as you know, a property management division. So Isaac, you did not go much into detail about how great you are, but I should just brag to everybody. Isaac does it right. Isaac certainly takes care of his clients well, and in anything regarding SEO or website building. And so, Isaac, I appreciate you taking care of me as you and your company have over the years. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate those kind words. So, kind of when we're talking about this particular neighborhood, we're looking at Spanish Trail, we're looking at Scenic Heights kind of being on the north end here, Spanish Trail being more towards the middle. But
Yeah.
how would you define kind of the boundaries of this area more precisely? We've mentioned things like the actual Spanish Trail, we've mentioned Scenic Heights, Bayou, I-10. How would you define this neighborhood if you had to sketch it out?
Yeah, so if you have a map there where everybody can see, I'll just describe it as you have the map going. There is a bayou that separates Pensacola, particularly the area of East Hill of Pensacola, from the Pensacola or Escambia Bay. And the area that we're talking about is in between that bayou going up and a little to the to also to the east of the airport. So if that line were just continued going straight up from the bayou to the east of the airport and then going around that way north, it's all that hugs the coast on the east side of Pensacola. It is called Scenic Heights because it is high. It is Scenic Heights contains hills that run along the bay that are the highest points, the highest waterfront elevations in all of Florida and Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana and Georgia. So this has some really high elevations, at least really high elevations for the deep south, right? That overlook the bay, and they're like 95 feet or so. Some of these hills are that look down, so they're great for sunrise views as well as moonrise views. So a lot of people park and see this over the bay. Now, Spanish Trail is a street that runs to just a little bit to the west of that coast, and there's some development there too, and the houses are a little bit different between most of Scenic Heights and Spanish Trail.
I've personally driven this particular route before, and it is very pretty both at sunset and sunrise, getting to see and look out over Escambia Bay here. So very pretty. And when we're thinking about sort of either the sort of housing stock or demographic of renters or anything else, how does this area in particular feel compared to the rest of Pensacola or even to East Hill, Pensacola, which we referenced in a first video?
Yeah, people like this area. They like it a lot because it is not too far from downtown Pensacola. It is close to the airport. It is close to the shopping and the hospitals of the Cordova area. And so people like all of that. There's work centers nearby. They can jump on the interstate very quickly, or they can be at the beach in a reasonable amount of time going south on Scenic Highway. So people have started moving there after Pensacola expanded from both downtown and from the East Hill areas. They started moving into this area. So there's a lot of houses that are in Scenic Heights that were built in the 70s. We just closed on one that was built in 1972, and then it goes from, I guess it would be late 60s to early 80s, a lot of those houses. Running along the the Spanish Trail Road, you have a lot more newer houses, houses that were built from the 90s and 2000s all the way up until the past 5 years or so. And so those houses tend to be newer, they tend to be more energy efficient. I would say more resistant to hurricanes, but they have because they have hurricane shutters and other modern conveniences that some of the older houses don't have. However, I would say these older houses have been through a lot of hurricanes, so they seem to have some good hurricane resistance on their own.
Are there any factors that drive a lot of the rental demand here as far as employment centers or anything like that?
Yeah, so as I was saying, the airport, the hospital of Sacred Heart is not too far away. Uh, Baptist Hospital and even the University Hospital, West Florida Hospital, excuse me, they're not too far away from this either. And so you have a lot of shopping and other things that are there. And then you have downtown Pensacola, which coming down Scenic Highway and going across Bayfront Parkway is just minutes away. So yeah, a lot of easy access to work areas here.
So in the past, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, you've kind of mentioned that anything below that like 300K price point on an investment property is usually a good investment in 2026. And if that's true, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, what would you kind of be getting for that price range as far as an investment property?
Right. So, uh, while East Hill often doesn't have things below 300,000, Scenic Heights sometimes does. And in fact, you can find places that are below 300,000, and tenants want these places. And just because it's below 300,000, I'll go ahead and say the obvious, Isaac, that we both know, but just so everybody appreciates this disclaimer, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good investment. That just increases the chances of it being a good investment. So, uh, getting a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house with a newer roof and a garage, that is all possible below 300,000. And it's something that most tenants are looking for, potential tenants are looking for something like that.
And I know in previous conversations with you, you've definitely parsed out and made a division between properties that are not real great investments. They might be good as a personal home, but not a good investment versus properties that are a good investment. And kind of in this area in particular, in this neighborhood, is that distinction purely price driven, or is there other factors like HOA fees or property type or renter profile at all?
Yeah. So let me just distinguish a little bit between the Spanish Trail newer houses and the Scenic Heights older houses. And I'm saying that not because that they are there's a hard line between them, but there is kind of a soft line that will help us in distinguishing what's available out there. Some of the newer houses, because they have higher prices, may not be quite as desirable as an investment. While their amenities may be good, the higher ceilings, the more open floor plans, the bigger closets, uh, more granite, you're probably not going to recoup that return in what you just spent. So that those might be better houses to be owner occupied, whereas the rental properties of Scenic Heights might have a little more availability of, okay, this accomplishes the 3 bedrooms, the 2 baths, the garage that I'm looking for. One thing that Scenic Heights has that, say, East Hill does not have is ease of taking care of. There's generally more brick that's used as a construction material in Scenic Heights, and there's less picket fences. I know picket fences are pretty, but they also are something that you have to maintain. And so, if there are less rose bushes, less picket fences, the grass is not immaculate. That's actually kind of helpful when it comes to property management and getting a return on your investment because it takes money and time to maintain these things. And so Scenic Heights has a little less of that than what, say, East Hill has.
So, kind of looking at you personally, Rob, I know you are a real estate investor. What is your ideal buy in this area right now? Any specific sub area, like looking in Scenic Heights, any sort of price range or property type, whether that be single family, or whatnot?
Yeah, so since you have that map in front of you, I would be interested in the three bedroom, two baths, less than 300,000, maybe even less than 250 if I could get it. That runs along the northern edge of your map there, closer to the interstate. I like those areas because of the prices tend to be lower in there, both south of the interstate and a little bit north. And then going down to the very bottom of Scenic Heights, there might be some deals down there too where somebody can pick up a property for quite a bit less that would be attractive to a tenant.
Oh, and we don't have to give away all the inside secrets, but that's, I think, a good insight. And kind of just a bigger philosophical question. One of our last questions here is like 10 years from now, what does this part of Pensacola look like, do you think?
I think we're just going to keep seeing some appreciation on this place, and I think that the desirability will not wane here because people have found that it's a really good place to live and a good place to get to work quickly. So I think we're going to see both appreciation of home prices as well as rent prices will both probably go up at a rate close to 4.59% like it has the past 30 years for our nation. I think it's going to continue for this area as well.
Excellent. I think that's a really good overview on kind of this neighborhood, especially digging into Scenic Heights. Anything else you want to say, wrapping up, that we
Sure.
missed or that is important to touch on?
Yeah, you said that you've driven by here. Do you remember the chimney that is there on
Yes.
Scenic Heights? Do you know the
Yeah.
story of that chimney?
No, I don't. I read the
Oh,
plaque, but I didn't dig into the story.
yeah, so it is actually so Scenic Heights, those cliffs that are along the bay, they were used by the Spanish and some companies over the decades to make bricks. They would mine the clay out of them, and that chimney was where they would fire these bricks fire the clay to make them into bricks. And so a lot of forts around our area and other areas, I think, were built with some of these bricks that were made here at Pensacola. I think it was even we were exporting bricks for a long time. That's what it was used for. It was used for firing this clay to make bricks.
Oh, that's very neat. I did not know that. What an interesting sort of Pensacola piece of history there.
Yeah. Well, everyone, I appreciate you watching this about Scenic Heights and Spanish Trail, and let us know. Let me know if you have questions on anything about it. I'm glad to help where I can.